When the outdated tactics get left behind, it's time we stop. Marketers look around when your ranking's going down.
My first question, and one that is really, really interesting for me personally, because I've been blogging for a while as well, but not as much as you do, of course. So how do you keep going? Since when have you been blogging, and what would be your advice to a blogger on how not to quit, how just to keep this going for years?
Yeah, I mean, so you've been doing it for a long time and on multiple sites. That's really good. That's really cool. So I started in 2003, and I guess my advice is really just be consistent. I try to, consistently do my day-to-day routine consistently in a certain way. So every morning, for an hour or two, I will just, blog. I'll write about search. Usually it's about 5 to 10 posts per day. And it always amazes me that this 5 to 10 posts per day that somebody can write that's something relatively new on the topic of search. So it's just about being consistent and being repetitive, and the routine is very, very important. Without that, it's like you have to make time to blog, and somebody's like, oh, I need a blog this week, and they don't have a set aside time for that. It's going to make it harder for them. I think as long as you have a set time to do it, I think that's the way to go.
So what are your rewards? Like, how do you motivate yourself?
Helping people, I guess. I mean, there's not really much money in this. I mean, especially for SEO blogging, I appreciate, you guys sponsor, but I don't do it for the money. I really don't. I do it because I think it helps helpful.
That's why I'm asking, like, do you like comments? Do you like people talking about that? Is there any feedback that motivates you or anything like that?
So if I took all the feedback, that would be bad. There's a lot of negativity in the space, especially on Twitter and so forth. I've told people in the past that at this point, I'm so numb to everything, both negative and positive, so that if you say something nice about me, it's like people I have no expression with anything, because doing this for so long and being in the public for so long, especially in the SEO space, which is a pretty heated type of area, people have strong opinions. And when things like Google comes out with new policies and you report about that, and people want to shoot the messenger, over the years, it's made me a little bit numb to all the feedback, both in positive and negative feedback in general. And that's fine. And that doesn't necessarily, it helps. What really makes me happy is if I hear from somebody that, helped them with their career, or helped them get a promotion, or if maybe I helped them get a speaking gig, or maybe I interviewed them on the blog and stuff like that, and that helped them. That's kind of the motivation for me, is is this helping people with their job? Is this helping them get, a better job? Is it helping them, with their family and their lives? And that's probably the motivation for it. It's helping people.
Thank you for helping me get a speaking gig, Barry.
You've been speaking well before.
There's probably a lot of things. I think the industry as a whole always appreciates you so much.
Thank you.
I'm kind of curious because I know officially you're not an SEO, even though you cover SEO news and you write about SEO a lot. But if you're not an SEO, what do you consider yourself? A journalist? But what about Rusty Brick as well? What is Barry Schwartz if he's not an SEO?
It's a good question. So I wouldn't consider myself a journalist either, and that used to really upset Danny Sullivan when I used to work with him. I'm not a journalist. I can't spell. I make typos left and right. My grammar is horrible, I think. I mean, it's probably gotten better over the years. So I don't consider myself a journalist either, even though I write a lot. I don't consider myself an SEO because I'm not making money on the SEO side of stuff. My job, I guess, is I'm president of Rusty Brick. We do software development. I have a passion to covering search engines and stuff like that, because it's constantly changing, and I love the change, the rapid pace of it. But my passion is about really looking at how we can make things in general more efficient to do. Everything I do is about how can I do this in the most efficient way, which is why I'm able to write so fast and publish so much, and also do a lot of other things, People ask, people assume my writing is my full-time job. And they're like, how do you get so in a day? I'm like, it's just an hour to a day. It's not even. And they're like, whoa. I'm like, but if you're efficient about what you do, you can get a lot of stuff done really, really, effectively. And that's what my company is all about. We look at ways to use technology, both web-based software and mobile app software, to make anything more efficient, either ways companies operate or by day-to-day life. Like we made some apps that make things more efficient for people in general. Like I bought new shirts for this interview, and I had to make sure that my pocket was over here, because when I keep my phone somewhere, I don't put it in my pants pocket because it's too far away from my face. This is a little bit closer to my face, and when I need to look at my phone, it's faster. Any little it's stupid, it's OCD a little bit, but anything that I could do to make anything a little bit faster and more efficient is what I'm kind of obsessed about. So I guess if you want to label me as anything, it's about being as efficient as possible in a way, and using that in my day-to-day life, in personal life as well as professional life, and the SEO world, the journalistic world, the software development world, and just the way I do things in my home.
I like that. That's a great skill to have, to be able to run a company as well as create apps for companies as well that accomplish that same goal. Barry, any thoughts on Bing or DuckDuckGo, or maybe there's going to be a new Apple search engine or Facebook search engine? Who knows? But
yeah. So let's go through each one. So Bing, I think it's holding strong. Hopefully they can continue to grow market share. DuckDuckGo has been slowly decreasing market share. I wrote a story about it on Search Engine Land just a couple of days ago, actually. It's cool because they publish their queries per month and queries per day data. And over the past few months, they're dipping down and down in terms of the queries per day and per month. I think the reason for that is when that story came out about DuckDuckGo and their privacy issues, and they're on like the privacy search engine. They had like a leak around their data was being used in a non-private way. So ever since then, they've been getting less and less traffic. So I don't know if that's the end of DuckDuckGo or if we'll make up for it. We'll see. DuckDuckGo was increasing. They were doing over 100 million queries per day, and now it's below that. Apple search has been rumors forever. I think the first time we saw like an Apple bot was maybe 10 plus years ago. It makes sense for them to get into the market because they spend like $6 billion per year or something like that. Well, they get paid. Yeah, they get paid $6 billion per year from Google to actually make that default search provider on Safari, mobile Safari. And I guess Google thinks it's worth $6 billion. So if they do their own, they could probably make a lot more money. And there have been signs of Apple doing that. And it's obviously they're focused on Siri and Spotlight within the operating systems, but they're getting, they have Siri and they have all these other things. So I think it makes sense for them to do that, but I haven't seen it happen yet. And it would be very, very, very cool if they did that. I just don't know if that will ever happen. We've been talking about it forever and it still hasn't happened. So, I mean, there's Brave, there's lots of different search engines out there, and there's been many, many search engines that have come and gone over the years. You just do a search, you go to the Wikipedia page about search engines, it gives you a timeline of all the search engines that have come and gone over the years. It's sad. I miss the old days of like Excite, Alta Vista, Yahoo, Microsoft Live. All those search engines are gone. It's really just Google.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame.
Barry, what do you think the future of SEO conferences is going to be?
That's a good question. So there are, obviously COVID's trying to slowly go out. I'm going to my first in-person SEO event. It's a small one in Google, New York City is holding a meetup in a week or so, about 10 days from today, I believe. That would be my first time actually going to an in-person SEO event. I've been to non-SEO events in person, but I've been pretty safe in general. But I'm not a some people need that connection with people. I'm perfectly good with doing these things online. I know XMX is planning on continuing to do them online for the foreseeable future. Hopefully that will change in the next year or two. I'm not sure, but right now I think XMX is online only. There's a conference going on right now at the beach, which probably is the safest place to have a conference these days. But it seems like COVID is kind of if you get COVID, thankfully it seems like it's going to be very, very mild. And all the rules and regulations are kind of relaxing right now. I mean, I'm actually I've been on trips on planes during COVID. I'm only going to say when is after COVID, but in any event, I'm flying now to overseas, and now America got rid of the rule that you have to take a PCR test on the way back, which is great. So you don't no longer need that. So I think you're going to see conferences start to come back very, very soon in person. But I think for at least XMX's purpose, I think we're going to be online for the next year or so at least. I don't, it's not my decision. I would like to have one in-person XMX events coming up soon. But it's just so much easier to juggle things when you're online, to be honest. I could like work and like do other things, and I don't have to travel. I don't like delays. I don't like sitting in airports waiting for the plane or cancellations. You press a button, you're at the conference in no time. There's pros and cons to everything. I don't need the people thing. A lot of people need it. I get it. I don't need to be with people. It's not my personality. Being online, even on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, I feel like I know the people, and that's enough for me. Some people need the physical interaction with people.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be quite the way that it used to be, which is kind of sad. I certainly enjoyed the conferences and enjoyed seeing everyone, but you're right. I've really been enjoying the past few years off from not traveling, and the traveling that I have done is not nearly as fun as it was, and not that it was ever fun, but it's even less fun these days, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, people are canceling flights left and right. They don't have staff. People are sick. It's a disaster. But I do think things will get back to normal soon. Although we're going right through, there's going to be a big recession. I mean, there is a big recession going on right now, but I think it's going to get a lot worse. And hopefully, in about a year, I'm not some type of economic guru, but I think hopefully in a year or two, I think we'll go back. I think we'll be back to fully normal in about 2 years. I think that's my crystal ball.
That'd kind of be cool. I thought I'd be retiring a lot sooner than I think now. A year or two ago, yeah, retirement's coming right down the pipeline. Here we go. It's like, no, not yet.
I can't see you retiring, so I don't know. I mean, I don't plan on ever retiring. So
yeah, that's true too. I think the retiring would just be, I'd still be working and doing stuff.
You do what you love. I think. I mean, build your blood. In your blood is SEO. I think. I mean, it's hard to like stop that, right?
It is. Like I still do it all the freaking time, and go to bed thinking about it.
That's how your brain works. I mean, it's funny. Like I was speaking to somebody on a totally different topic about like writing in general, and I'm like, I don't know how to write any other way than to think about how somebody will search for that article in Google. I'm not, why else would you write it? If you're trying to help somebody has a problem, you want them to find it in Google so they could find it. And that's the only way I think. How would somebody search for like my titles, my content? It's written in a way that I think somebody might search for it and find it in Google.
Who is your favorite Googler these days and why?
That's not fair. Okay. Maybe it's easy. Obviously, I worked with Danny Sullivan for a really long time. I've known him forever, and he taught me a lot before he was at Google, since I worked with him. Yeah, so he was probably my favorite Googler, although it's not fair to say that because, John Mueller is an amazing person. Gary Ish is amazing. Daniel Weisberg is amazing. Martin Split, they're all just amazing people. They genuinely care about people. I think they're just good people in general. And the list goes on and on. I mean, Izzy at Google, Aurora. I don't want to I keep naming names. I should probably stop. But there's all these people at Google. They're just really good people in general. Matt Cutts was a good person too. So he's no longer there, obviously. But just generally good people.
Barry, any thoughts on Bing or DuckDuckGo, or maybe there's going to be a new Apple search engine or Facebook search engine? Who knows? But
yeah, so let's go through each one. So Bing, I think it's holding strong. Hopefully, they can continue to grow market share. DuckDuckGo has been slowly decreasing market share. I wrote a story about it on Search Engine Land just a couple of days ago. Actually, it's cool because they publish their queries per month and queries per day data, and over the past few months, they're dipping down and down in terms of the queries per day and per month. I think the reason for that is when that story came out about DuckDuckGo, and their privacy issues, and they're on like the privacy search engine. They had like a leak around their data was being used in a non-private way. So ever since then, they've been getting less and less traffic. So I don't know if that's the end of DuckDuckGo or if we'll make up for it. We'll see. DuckDuckGo was increasing. They were doing over 100 million queries per day, and now it's below that. Apple search has been rumors forever. I think the first time we saw like an Apple bot was maybe like, I don't know, 10 plus years ago. It makes sense for them to get into the market because they spend like 6 billion per year or something like that. Well, they get paid. Yeah, they get paid 6 billion per year from Google to actually make that default search provider on Safari, mobile Safari. And I guess, Google thinks it's worth 6 billion. So if they do their own, they could probably make a lot more money. And there have been signs of Apple doing that. And it's obviously they're focused on Siri and Spotlight within the operating systems, but they're getting, they have Siri and they have all these other things. So I think it makes sense for them to do that, but I haven't seen it happen yet. And it would be very, very, very cool if they did that. I just don't know if that will ever happen. We've been talking about it forever and it still hasn't happened. So, I mean, there's Brave, there's lots of different search engines out there, and there's been many, many search engines that have come and gone over the years. You just do a search, you just search, you go to the Wikipedia page about search engines, it gives you a timeline of all the search engines that have come and gone over the years. It's sad. I miss the old days of like Excite, Alta Vista, Yahoo, Microsoft Live. All those search engines are gone. It's really just Google.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame.
You're very big into the latest gadgets that come out. What is one of the coolest gadgets you've gotten in the past year?
So that's a good question. I just bought the new DJI Mini 3 Pro. I flew it once or twice. I probably will never fly it again. We'll see. That's cool. Drones are very cool. I have this problem with kind of like a sickness where I buy technology stuff, use it a few times and never use it. But I am getting a new car. I went into a dealership, I don't know, January or something. My lease is about to expire, and they were like laughing at me. Like, if you want a car, it's going to cost you more, probably twice as much as you're paying. I lease cars generally. So I was paying, I don't know, whatever. And they're like, it's going to cost you twice that for the same as that car. I'm like, what? They're like, well, we don't have any cars, so it's going to cost you. I'm like, you know what? Forget that. So I went online, I bought, and I reserved and ordered a Lucid Air. It's like the new Tesla.
Barry Schwartz, I have a question not only me, but probably thousands of other SEOs have been wanting to know. And that is, about how many times a month do you get a message from someone saying, have you seen this? And of the times that you get that, how many of those a month are you like, no, I've never seen this before?
So probably a few times per day, maybe like 1 to 10 times a day. So I don't know, maybe on average, I don't know, over 100 times per month. And how many of them are new? Maybe 10.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
I bet that all those new search sections, little elements, all those are mostly new because they pop up and then they are gone. So
Right.
they always move around. And I remember writing to Barry about one of those, and he's like, I barely ever cover that anymore because there are so many new search elements at this point. So it's just not worth the blog post.
Yeah, certain ones are just certain ones the user interface never changes, and then when they change it's a big deal. But some are constantly changing the user interface slightly. Constantly. So, and Google says they do what, like 100,000 plus experiments per year. So it's not unheard of, and Google's constantly testing, which means again, like we should be testing our own stuff constantly. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably say, I don't know, out of the month, like 100 or so people ask me something's new, and probably like maybe 10 of them are newish enough for me to cover it.
I'm trying to remember if any of mine were you like, oh yeah, Jim, that's the first. I know a lot of them you've been like, I covered it here, I covered it there. I'm like, damn it, I get the newsletter, I read it every day. Like, how did I miss this?
I write a lot, I post a lot, so I even miss stuff. So there's times where actually I post something being new, and I covered it a few years ago as being new. It's rare, but I've sometimes done that. So
yeah.
Your favorite sources of the news that you're using, how do you monitor them? How do you organize them? Which one you use more often than the others? Like, how do you find those news that you cover, apart from people emailing you?
Yeah, do you have like some huge like RSS feed of 1 million sites or something?
Yes, I do. In fact, when Google Reader sent me like a bunch of swag back in the day, they said I was their number one consumer of RSS feeds out of all their users. So I subscribe to a tremendous amount of RSS feeds from obviously all the blogs. I'm sure whenever you post something, I tend to link to it. I have my newsletter where I cover all the stuff that people are saying. I may miss stuff, obviously. I also subscribe to a lot of search alerts, like Google alerts and other alerts in terms of keyword-based alerts. I subscribe to a lot of Twitter feeds to track what people are saying, especially Googlers. I track a lot of the online discussion forums that are public. I also track the private ones, but I can't share the stuff in the private ones. I only share stuff that's publicly accessible that a search engine could actually crawl. That's my policy. I won't cover stuff that people tell me or email me privately or tell me privately. I will not cover that. I only cover stuff that I can actually link to. And I always link to stuff. I hate when I constantly see people, not just like in the search community, but also in the Lucid community and so forth, sharing stuff without linking to the source. I'm like, where do you find this? Like, then I see people sharing my stuff that I linked to the source where I found it, and they just screen capture it as their own. I'm like, can you just tell people where the source? Don't tell them I'm not the source. I linked to the source. So tell people who the source was. Like if Jim shared something on Facebook or Twitter and it's public, link to him. He found it. Give the source, give credit where it's due. And that's how the web works. I mean, it's all about links. Give credit to where credit's due. And that's my biggest pet peeve is that people don't link to the source, or they hide the link at the bottom of the article saying, here's the link. Promote the community, promote the people who make this community better. This way they keep adding more and more content to the community and keep helping people and sharing people. If you start, ripping people off, they're going to stop sharing stuff, and it's going to make everybody in the community, it's going to hurt everybody in the community. So I just keep sharing and linking to the source, because without that, people are going to stop sharing stuff. Did I go off on a tangent there? Yeah, so those are So RSS feeds, Twitter, public forums. How do I manage it all? I use Feedly. I use a bunch of bookmarks, believe it or not. I have a bunch of other tools that I use internally that I built myself to keep track of them. And I use TweetDeck, which is great, I think. And those are my primary tools that I use.
In TweetDeck, do you have like separate columns for separate lists of people tweeting something?
I do, yes. I have columns for a bunch of things, not just the mentions, because a lot of people do mention stuff. Hey, I found this, and they'll mention me on Twitter and say, this is new. But I also have a bunch of stuff like, different columns for Googlers, for Microsoft represented Bing, and for a lot of different, PPC things as well. So I have columns for that.
Barry, can you tell me more about the services that you offer at Rusty Brick?
Sure, yeah. So in the simplest way of describing it is if you need something that's not built yet, that either could make your company run more efficiently, or you have this crazy idea on a new type of, web software, web platform, or mobile app that you think would be really useful and great for people, or you're just looking to tweak out more efficiency from your company, we will build software to do all that type of stuff, from, taxi cab software to operational software for your business, to hospital administration software, to patient billing, anything that's out of the box that you can't just buy a Shopify website for or WordPress website for. We build stuff that is out of the box, both mobile and web. And that's our passion. We don't outsource any of it. It's all built internally with our employees here. Our employees used to be in our office. I'm now like one of the few people that go to our office anymore. So I'm trying to get rid of my lease at some point. If you're looking to take a lease over in West Nyack, New York, I got 3,000 plus square feet here. You can take it from me. But yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you very much, Barry.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure. It's great to have known you for 20 or so years now in this space, and hopefully we'll continue this for another 20 years.
Stock marketers look around.